Hello and welcome back to the Vanessa Eriksson podcast, here to bring you meaningful conversations on data, AI, innovation and leadership. Today's guest is none other than Erik Hallberg, a true legend of Swedish Telecom, a key figure behind Telia's evolution from a national carrier to a global tech player. Erik helped shape Telia from a traditional state-run operator into a modern, competitive force across broadband, mobile and international networks. And now, as chairman and advisor to several cutting-edge companies like HiQ International, Haltian, FedoAmp and IoTcoms.io, Erik is still driving innovation, this time with AI and data at the core. Let's get started.
Welcome, Erik.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to see you here.
Wonderful to see you too.
Thank you. You've been called a legend in Swedish Telecom.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a wow.
Yeah, it is a wow.
But when you look back, what do you think has defined the golden era of Swedish Telecom?
Well, I think number one, and we can come back to it in different points of view later, but Sweden has always been well known for industrial product design and development.
Mm-hmm.
We have Eriksson in the Nordic area, we have Nokia, we have a lot of other high-tech companies, more high-tech companies than we should have in relation to our population. And I think that's been part of our success as a country. And that has been also been driving the telco sector. And we have had a great development just because of the presence of these vendors like Nokia, Eriksson and others that has supported growth of our sector.
You know, you've had copper cables and now we're into the cloud native solutions. Mm-hmm. You've seen it all. In this entire evolution, what do you think, which shift truly redefined the telco space?
Well, during my 25, soon 30 years in this industry, there has been a big shift, an enormous shift. 30 years ago, 25 years ago, the telco industry was a verticalization. It was a lock-in based upon proprietary solution within each telco, based upon the transport network, the access network, but then application and solution that was proprietary for each company. Then suddenly things start happening. Mobile network come in and open up by giving out frequencies, where the regulatory body was opening it up by saying you can get more frequencies and you can start building your own network.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, there comes something more than mobile networks, and that was Internet Protocol IP. That really starts shifting something from something to something new.
Yeah.
And suddenly the copper networks start carrying data. The mobile networks start carrying data. It went up from 9.6 kilobits per second to 14 to 21 to 27 to 64 kilobits per second. Everyone said, wow. Then suddenly we moved to 256 kilobits per second and to megabit per second. And now we are up in gigabits per second.
Yeah.
And that has been a driver. And the driver is the Internet Protocol, the IP stack, because it made it also possible for you and me to select what kind of service we want, not to be locked into one solution. And that freedom to select what you want to do and which one you would like to use has been fantastic. It's moved into other technology like 4G, 3G, and now 5G on the mobile side. And then suddenly fiber on the fixed line side, which is also the part of the mobile network. All of this happened very quickly. And that has led to that new services like Netflix, like Spotify, like Amazon, like Google, and a lot of others has been able to maximize value for their users in a way that was not dreamed about 25 years ago from the user's point of view. But this freedom
Yeah.
has also created a totally new universe. That's where we are today, 25 years later. It's been a fantastic development time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking, so for a 25-year-old today who does not know what Telia was like when you joined, what would you say to them?
I think when I joined in 1999, Telia was a traditional so-called incumbent, where we were part of this verticalization in many aspects. And what was important for the company, but also for me as a leader, was to make ourselves attractive. Because when openness and alternatives pops up, the most important thing for me as a customer is to be able to select, and I select by who is the most attractive partner for me. How do I make myself attractive? It's a little bit like when I hope my wife selected me. I hope she selected me because I was attractive.
Of course you did.
And then I need to make myself continuously attractive. Otherwise, it could have a negative impact.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about for a company like Telia, has been to make itself more attractive. We were able to start in the Baltic state with the fiber and TV. We moved that over to the Nordic, into Sweden. We launched TV in Sweden. We were the first commercial player with Spotify. And I think this has created a little bit of a momentum where Telia has been more attractive and creating thereby a little bit more attractiveness in its brand. So I think it's been a quite interesting journey.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like. And I think Telia has continued to be attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk about that in another question. Yeah.
No, but I think you're right. Telia, as well as all other operators in the field of telco, needs to continue to be innovative. You cannot survive upon all victories. You have to survive upon adding new victories to the history, and thereby creating the proof of the pudding that you are attractive.
Yes. When you worked at Telia Sonera International Carrier, data was not just content, it was the infrastructure.
That's right.
How did you knew pretty early on the importance of data. How did that change your outlook on its strategic value?
For me, it was a fantastic experience, and to move and come into the world of Telia International Carrier at that time. At that time, number 12, 13 in transporting data between different parts of the world, especially between Europe and US, but also to other parts of the world. And see how this content that was transported become active for me and you. I mean, today we take it for given that we connect Netflix wherever we are, or Spotify wherever we are, or Facebook wherever we are. It's part of just click and go.
Yep.
But behind that curtain, there is a very complex world of infrastructure. Every Wi-Fi spot, if you want to have something good out of it, you need to have infrastructure behind. And behind that infrastructure, you need to have the content connected to the infrastructure. And when I had the opportunity to start working with the international carrier, it became obvious for me that this is part of the future. It's absolutely part. And I learned so much of all these talented people within the carrier that I must say it was fantastic.
Yeah. You were a super success.
No, it was a good thing because we had an asset that was not really utilized. At that time, the CEO of Telia said to me, I'm so fed up of this business. We have been running it for 20 years with no profit, and we need to turn it around. And I said, well, I'm happy to run the mobile business in Sweden at that time. He said, no, you should run the carrier and you have to turn it around. And I asked him, what do you want me to do? And he turned back, walked 5 meters that direction, 5 meters back, and said, give me a plan in a month.
Wow.
And it was the trust that was given.
Yeah.
And it was 3.5 fantastic years.
You turned it around. Well
We
done.
turned it around, yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's
later
a lot.
it was sold. it was sold to, and now Eriksson,
Yes,
it was
yes.
sold for a very good figure
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah. With all the data, they've got customer data, network data, infrastructure data. Where do you think, there's a lot of data that telcos are handling. Do you see an area where it's untapped opportunities?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of untapped opportunities. There is one area, for me today, I've been focusing on working with companies where it's been very much tech-oriented, very much supporting digitalization in the society, but also supporting a better environment to do good. I think there is a lot of opportunities to do more good. More good when it comes to how you support the environment, more good how you look at how you invest.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have been focusing so much on quarterly reports that we have sometimes forgot that figure is not happening over one quarter. It's happening over a long time.
Yeah.
An environment needs to be supported over a long time, and investment thereby as well. And to develop this kind of services for the environment is not happening over one day. There is a lot of things going on with fintech, and you can say health tech, and that's fine. But the environment, how do we really support the environment? That's crucial.
I agree. Your role today at Haltian,
Yeah.
how are you? Are you doing something different when you're working with data there? Or how different is it compared to the traditional telco model?
Well, if you look at companies like Haltian or Telecom or company like Haiku and others that I've been involved in, as well as IoT comps today, what is important is to see what kind of benefit we add. And there is one example about a big real estate company with more than 5,000 estates around the world, mostly in US, where they have put in sensors in the maintenance room to secure that they know what's going on when it comes to leakages, humidity, temperature, or risk that is related to the operation of the building. When the CEO is talking about this thing, he's not talking about the sensors.
No.
He's not talking about the data, because the data is the important thing. He's talking about what good it does for them and their customer. We have less than 1 million of kilometers per day in transport for our maintenance people. We reduce work with 6.5 minutes per day per site, and that is impacting the environment. That's the message. And I think that's the thing that we need when I was talking about doing things good. Is to see that what the tech is enabling in digitalization is not only tech, it's not only digitalization, it's to do good.
Yes.
And I think that's something where I think the telcos could take a place to support their customer to do good. Not only say we have the most fantastic network, because in the end it is a little bit the same all over.
Yeah.
But there is a different approach you have when you go to the market.
When we talk about telcos, do you believe they are, set to win with data innovation, or do you think that there are gaps, still fundamental gaps that need to be closed first?
Well, as you said in the beginning, now we're talking about native data, we're talking about AI.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. AI has been a word, but it means artificially intelligence.
Yes.
And it also means that there is one area which has to be really important, also for the telco, but even more for its customer, is whom is the owner of the data. I made in front of this little talk today a printout from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes,
pick it
of
up?
course.
Because I think this is a little bit of an interesting thing. Let's see where we have all these papers. It's so many things when you start digging into this kind of ChatGPT and other AI engine. It says, I asked the question, if I have an enterprise, is my data secured? Which is a very interesting question for all enterprise leaders, executives, but also for me as an individual. And its answer was, a company can never be 100% sure, but they can reduce the risk heavily by using the right tools, agreement and security processes.
Yes.
In reality, it means that today we are engaged in the word AI all over. We say that this is the future, this is everything. But there is little debate about the most important thing is who owns the data?
Yeah.
What is the data used for? Whom is using my data? And to what purposes? And that is not only for companies, but it's also for me as an individual. Big company like Meta, owner of Facebook and other well-known services, they own enormous amount of money. And they have been in the markets almost just 25 years. The question is, what is the product they have? From my point of view, and that's just my point, I am the product.
Yeah.
Or my company is the product. And they very deliberately say that they could use the algorithms to use data for advertising and other purposes. And that is fine. But I think it's important to enlighten executives, leaders, and consumers that it's their data.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is the most important question for the next coming 20, 25 years. I'm not against AI, I'm not against using data, but I'm against that my data is used without me knowing it.
Yep. And I think you're so spot on, Erik, because, there are so many companies today in my network that reach out to me because they're still struggling with that fundamental question of data governance, of how do we do this? And, when you and I were at Telia together, that's when we were talking about data governance and who owns the data.
Yes.
So I find that also very challenging because today that data is, triple-fold, it's so much data today. So companies are on this journey of how do I make sense of this, who owns the data, and getting that data governance, which is so fundamental and still in place.
And where is my data stored?
Yes. Where's my data stored?
And this is an interesting question because it takes the whole step into the next phase, and that is industrial application. And everyone start talking about that you can use IoT sensors in the production, in the factories. The question is, what's happening if the core network from an operator, whoever it is, goes down? Will my factory stop? Here in Sweden and in many other countries, we start seeing that industry start building their own private network that is not connected to anything else than their own operation inside the building, because they cannot allow that if an operator's core network goes down, because today a lot of core networks in the network is in the cloud.
Yeah.
So if there is something happening with the cloud, whatever it is, then there's maybe a stop in my production. So therefore they build their own access network inside the building or area. And it's not only to have production, it's also to secure that the data is not leaking out from that production site. Because that could be crucial.
Yeah.
And just now when you can see that you have not only good application, you also have AI going into military application. It's going to be even more important that you secure that the data that you want to protect is protected. And the only one that can do that is you, yourself. You take the lead on that.
Yeah. So if you were running Telia today, where would you start with, implementing AI into the core business? What would you do first?
I think the first thing that you need to do, not specifically for Telia, but for Telia as well, is to decide which side you want to be on. If you want to be on the tech side or on the user side, that's the number one. If you decide to be on the tech side, you can use the data and you can optimize it for your own purpose, or you want to be on the user side to secure that they own the data. That could be a very interesting differentiation, and I think that's what they need to do, and officially do it.
Yeah.
Not only say we protect data or this kind of thing. It has to be something worked out well in detail, so they really have a strong message there.
So a lot of leaders see AI as a tool. Some see them AI as a capability. What's your take on it?
I see it as an opportunity.
Nice.
I see it as an opportunity, if it's used right, to support a lot of good things. The thing we talked about before. I think to maximize the data and do it the right thing and support good things like environmental, energy optimization, a lot of things that in that area which is so important for us to get in place.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it. When I was driving out to you here, I met a lot and I saw a lot of electrical cars in this neighborhood. We have around 5% of the cars is electrical today. If we go up to 50%, the whole distribution network, the so-called grid network, will probably collapse. So if we're going to get these new environmental things, the good things in place, we need to secure ways of using the infrastructure in a better way. There, for example, AI could be a very important tool, and I will be happy to let my building, my apartment, my data from there be part of that network to secure that more people can do more good. That's just one example. And that's also where a telco could be part of this development curve, because they have a fantastic opportunity. They have customer relations to consumers, to enterprises, to public customers. So if they use it for good, it could be a catalyst for something really interesting.
I clearly hear when you talk about, you're so passionate about the whole doing good. We live in a country where you and I are very proud of. We are proud to be, I've not been here as long as you have, but I'm still proud to be in this country, in Sweden, and also call myself Swedish. But I think, with the work that's being done, how do you think Sweden can continue to be competitive with the whole AI landscape today?
I think that you can see a lot of interesting companies today that is proven that they take the next step.
Yeah.
Obviously Spotify, obviously Klarna, obviously a lot of companies like in the fintech sector that is using new technology, AI look-alike tools or data things to really do things better. So I think that with our legacy in our country to develop industrial product, to become innovative, AI for me is a toolbox to take it to the next level. If you do it right, if you do it for the good. If you do it vice versa, like with all tech, it could be very negative. But let's secure that we do the right things.
I've had the good fortune of working with you, and I've always been very impressed with your leadership. How has that changed, Erik, from when you started to today? Has AI, the whole flow, has it changed you? Has it changed your leadership?
A very interesting question, and very delicate question. For me, there is a difference between leadership and be an executive to take operational decision. Leadership for me has not changed. Leadership is about seeing the team you have around you to go in the same direction, to reach the same targets, to be part of something. Leadership is about lifting people to reach their own capabilities and to be better. If I can use AI for some application, for something to support that, that's fine. But the leadership work or role is the same and will be the same. But for sure, when you come to the executive part, when you really have to measure things, when you have to do things, AI could be an application or something that supports you in a better way or make it more interesting for the customer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it doesn't change the leadership, because leadership is about you and me. It's about human beings. And I hope that I'm not a copy of myself and become a robot here and just nothing more. Because I think it's about seeing a smile, seeing in your eyes the commitment, the dedication, the determination to be part of something. That is not AI.
No.
That's human.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Do you think it's hard to be a visionary today, or is it easier with all the data that we have around us? You know, it's easier to predict. What's your opinion?
My opinion is very simple. I think the way of using data and for different new applications will be open up for visionary people to be even more creative. Maybe it's not going to be like embracing the whole world in one company, but in niches where you can use very important things and develop it, and then you connect it in different blocks with maybe other companies' development, and thereby creating a new ecosystem. And for me, I just think we are in the beginning of the beginning every day. And it will not stop just because we say that there is a problem.
Yeah.
We will find ways to solve it, but we need to be able to address that we have a question mark when it comes to the data.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate, almost a devil's advocate for who's owned my data and who's using my data. If that could be the next wave, that will be something that telcos and industry and public and government together needs to be super focused on. Just to embrace AI will not solve it. It's to embrace the question about what is a real thing, it's the data. And the governance of data, how you store it, where it's stored, who could use it, how it's used, how do I get control over that? That's a totally new word. I guess you know that better than I do because you've been heavily involved with international companies for that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. You can talk about American interest and Chinese interest. You can talk about European interest and other interest. Yes, for sure. It's about governance of data.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, Erik, and I think it's very critical. I absolutely agree with you. I think another aspect of this is also the responsible AI. How am I managing my AI? Because the data, you're spot on, because I'm feeding data to the AI, which means I need to know what kind of data am I feeding? Is it governed data? And how does my AI then react? Can I explain the decisions that were taken? Can I explain why that decision was taken? Because otherwise, a self-driving car, if I cannot explain why my car just stopped, I'm going to freak out. There's no way I'm going to be able to sit in that car and trust it again. So working also, I think the other aspect of what you're talking about is also responsibly working with AI. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you have things that's happening just now in the world, where you can see American interest contra other countries' interest.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of that? Someone needs to control it, and that's the only one that can take control of it is me, and request to get control over it. And the other thing, which I think is next step, is if people could earn so much money upon my data, why don't I get a share of it? That will be the next step of revolution. When someone says, I give you the same function like Meta or Google has, but you get a share back.
Yeah, I think that journey has also started in some places. So
absolutely, but it has to be a question that is raised.
Yes.
And it has to be a question where people and consumers and enterprise customer needs to say, we can do something better.
Yeah.
We can do it better and a little bit more good.
Yeah. But what do you think that companies are getting wrong now? Do you see, do you see, is it open, in plain sight for you where they're going wrong with AI?
I think that the word that could go wrong is greed.
Yeah.
And when greed goes in to quarterly reports, then it could go wrong. Because AI is something more than next quarterly report.
Yeah.
But as long as we are looking into have next quarterly report with better figures, it could also be used for something else. And that is not good.
No. If you had to bet on one thing that will define the next era of telco or tech, what would you bet on?
My hope, as a more and more matured individual, is that the tech will be used for the good when it comes to the environmental side. For optimizing energy optimization, for optimizing how we use our nature, for optimizing things like that.
Yeah.
That is where my hope is, because we have just touched it based upon that area. We've been good on doing it for entertainment, like music, like TV, like streaming, like film. But we now need to start using these opportunities for doing good for the next generation. That's what I really hope for.
Nice. I sit here, I listen to you, and you're so full of energy. And that's why I said, there's no way you can quit this game. You have to keep going because you inspire people like me.
Thank you.
But I have a question to that.
You have a
Erik.
question?
I
One
have
more?
a question. Yes, one more.
You're pushing me into the corner all the time.
I'm thinking, where do you get your energy? What wakes you up? What's the thing that, wakes you up in the morning and keeps you on your toes?
Curiosity. I just want to learn more. I want to understand more. And I want to understand what good it can do. And there is maybe for me, has always been a different. I have stopped at a certain level when it comes to digging into the details, but stopped where I could see how I could use the different opportunities. And that is me.
Yeah.
There is other that needs to dig into how you design the hardware, the software, the embedded solution, how you connect it to the radio communication technology, how you define the radio communication processes, how you avoid that data is not collision with each other. It's super good, super important. But also you need to see how you can use these opportunities. And I've been looking into that, and I'm still extremely curious how we could use it for the next phase, where artificial and intelligence combined could be something new, something good for the environment, and for me, and for my grandkids.
Lovely.
And their kids.
And their kids, yes. The generations to come.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Erik. I have
you.
so appreciated having you here.
Thank
And
you,
to
Vanessa.
everybody, all my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Vanessa.
And if you like the episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe to us. Bye for now.